Hi guys, this is me, One the Conqueror 3, and today I'm going to give you a TV show review. So, the characters you see right here are from a TV show that you grew up with. That used to be one of my favorite TV shows back in my childhood. What is it called? Thomas the Tank Engine. Why am I talking about Thomas the Tank Engine? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this here is the 40th anniversary of the TV show that aired on British television back in the year 1984. And this year is the 35th anniversary of the TV show's debut in America. So, what is Thomas the Tank Engine anyways? Thomas the Tank Engine is a story about a train and his co-workers doing train stuff. Sometimes they get into trouble, sometimes they learn life lessons, sometimes you learn about, not to be lazy, to work hard and stuff like that, and do all sorts of train stuff. And they have a bunch of different characters that have their own theme songs. And they had conflicts, usually about getting to a difficult situation, not understanding how the world works around them, or getting to an accident, getting to an avalanche, getting a roadblock, getting hit by an icicle, and sometimes dealing with really mean people, like bosses, and also really mean steam engines and really mean diesel engines who want to take over the railroad. They had a couple bad guys in the show. They had Bulgy and Diesel. Sometimes Daisy, she's sort of a bad guy in the show. Anyways, Thomas the Tank Engine, it's actually a pretty fun show to watch back when I was younger. My mom and dad introduced me to that show back when I was a little boy, and it gave me a big interest in machines, and I still like machines today. Unfortunately, somebody else told me that it's a really stupid baby show, but I don't think it matters. I think Thomas the Tank Engine's one of the best TV shows I ever watched in my lifetime. It's a lot better than most TV shows in my opinion. They have a couple TV shows. They have Arthur. I never seen Arthur, but it's kind of like Thomas the Tank Engine, but I thought it was a really stupid show at first. But when I was 11 years old, I discovered it's actually a pretty good show. What I loved about Thomas the Tank Engine is the theme songs, and most of the characters have different theme songs. Thomas has his own theme song, and Percy has his own theme song, James has his own theme song, Gordon, Sir Tom Hat, remember Sir Tom Hat theme song? That used to be stuck in my head all these years, because that guy used to creep me out as a kid. He had a really angry face, and I'm not joking. And do you remember at the end, when the show ends, they have the ending tune says, da 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 da. Remember that ending theme song at the end of every episode? That used to be one of my favorite theme tunes of a TV show ever. That was a really good closing of how they closed the episode of the show. Well, the da theme song, and the narrator starts saying, and now that's another story. Don't you like the intro where Tom the Tank Engine's traveling over that windmill and jogs into the beautiful countryside, then the water mill, and say hello to a kid over the bridge who is train spotting, and then Thomas stops into the station and smiles at you? Don't you like the narrators that George Carlin was a very good narrator back then? But my favorite thing about Thomas the Tank Engine, I love the narrow gauge train segments. I don't know why, but they're kind of sad though. But they have lots of scary stuff in it, like the freight cars crashing to Peter Sam, or everything collapsed on top of him. Another thing that's kind of terrifying is where Duke got locked up in this shed, where they had to shut down the railroad because the narrow gauge railroad's bankrupt, and the railroad train workers had to look for work and said goodbye to Duke and had to leave him behind. It gets buried underneath the grass, and then he gets rescued. Would it be dead by now on? That's kind of dark for a Thomas the Tank Engine show. Another thing that's dark about Thomas the Tank Engine is where Henry gets locked up in the tunnel because he was being a bitch about not going out of the tunnel, bitching about the rain. And Sir Tom's like, well, you're being too bitchy, rain, to Henry. I'm going to lock you up in the tunnel as a punishment if you stop whining like a little brat. People on YouTube said that's one of the most darkest moments in Thomas the Tank Engine. It's where Henry gets locked up in the tunnel. So, since I've been a wartime fan of Thomas the Tank Engine back when I was a little boy, you might be asking me, what was my favorite character in Thomas the Tank Engine? Well, possibly Donald the Douglas. These guys are pretty funny, especially their funny accents, but they are pretty cool. I love the theme song, the Scottish bagpipe marching music. I love that theme song. That's one of my favorites. I like Bill and Ben too. These guys are pretty funny too. But which character is also my favorite? I did like James. James is kind of cool, but he's also pretty funny. I love his theme song. The theme song is kind of cool, where it's like really jazzy. I've always saw James as kind of a girl. Don't you guys agree? In Tom's the Magic Railroad, James had a girl's voice. I am not kidding. Wait, I forgot. Toby the Tram Engine's one of my favorite characters in the show because he was so cute. He's a really nice guy. I love his design. I did love the theme song. Do 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 do. Toby used to be one of my favorite main characters of the show. You know, the Tram Engine. Remember that guy? Which is my favorite characters in the Narrow Gauge episodes? I don't quite remember. I think it was Duke or Peter Sam. I don't even remember. But I do think Duncan's kind of cool. He has a pretty funny personality. I do remember one episode of Thomas the Tank Engine is where Duncan, the Yoa engine, was blowing his whistle too much, and his whistle blew up like a rocket. It ended up being lost out of the middle of the countryside, and one of the train engineers decided to use the headmaster's organ as a train whistle, which is kind of funny, but it's really a smart idea to use a organ as a train whistle. It's like do. That was actually very funny. And then he starts playing "She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain, Here She Comes" on the organ. Now, I thought that was really funny at how Duncan has a very magical whistle. But unfortunately, the reason why he had an organ is because he was about to transport it to a school or like a concert or something. I don't remember. Some of the human characters in the show are pretty interesting, but they're kind of like statues at first. But in the CGI version of the show, everything became like moving. They were moving. They moved their heads and mouths and eyes. Compared to the original TV show, they stand up like statues. It was so weird. Even the mouths the towers are taking to train so you move, but the eyeballs move. I think because of low budget, that could be the reason. The model making of Thomas Tank Engine is actually very good in my opinion. But I wasn't much a fan of the storylines, but I do love the camera work of the trains doing train stuff. But I've always thought Tom the Tank Engine's kind of boring. It doesn't really teach you anything about people or friendship. They only teach you about trains and stuff. Well, that's a little bit kind of boring. I should have watched a different cartoon instead, Tom the Tank Engine, but I don't know anything about TV shows. Some of the other TV shows I knew were Sesame Street. Sesame Street was a pretty good show back then. I did like the Elmo's World segment. That was my favorite. The model making of Thomas the Tank Engine is actually very good in my opinion. But I wasn't much a fan of the storylines, but I do love the camera work of the trains doing train stuff. But I've always thought Tom the Tank Engine's kind of boring. It doesn't really teach you anything about people or friendship. They only teach you about trains and stuff. Well, that's a little bit kind of boring. I should have watched a different cartoon instead, Tom the Tank Engine, but I don't know anything about TV shows. Some of the other TV shows I knew were Sesame Street. Sesame Street was a pretty good show back then. I did like the Elmo's World segment. That was my favorite.